He just wanted to surprise his little girl. He wanted to see her face light up with that pure, unfiltered joy that only a 7-year-old has. But one phone call, from one neighbor, who saw the wrong thing from the wrong angle, turned a loving gesture into an absolute nightmare. In just 3 hours, this devoted single father would be accused of kidnapping his own daughter. He'd find himself surrounded by police, hands in the air, his name and character dragged through the mud on his own quiet, suburban street. He would feel the crushing weight of judgment from the very community he called home. Stick with us to see the stunning, undeniable proof that not only cleared his name but left an entire neighborhood speechless and forced to confront a painful truth about themselves. Intro. This story doesn't start with flashing lights and fear. It starts with the quiet, comforting rhythm of a Saturday morning. It starts with Marcus, a man whose world, since his divorce 2 years ago, had been rebuilt around one person, his daughter, Maya. At 36, Marcus wasn't a guy who sought the spotlight. He was a graphic designer who worked from home, a man who found happiness in the small moments, the smell of pancakes, the sound of his daughter's laughter, the feeling of her hand tucked in his. By every measure, he was a good man and a doting father. And on this particular Saturday, he had a plan to give Maya a birthday surprise so magical she'd remember it forever. He had no idea that this plan, born from pure love, would soon put him at the center of a storm of suspicion that threatened to tear his world apart. Section 1, The Perfect Day. The sun spilled into the kitchen. Marcus flipped a pancake, the sizzle a familiar, comforting sound. Maya, perched on a stool at the counter, giggled as he caught it perfectly on the plate. "Think you can eat 3 today, my little monster?" he asked. "I can eat 4, she declared, holding up 4 fingers with a proud, gap-toothed grin. "'Cause I'm almost 7, and 7-year-olds are super strong." Marcus chuckled, his heart swelling. "That's right, sweetie. Almost 7. Her birthday was a week away, and the excitement was buzzing in the air. For months, Marcus had been saving and planning. Being a single parent on a freelancer's budget isn't always easy, but for Maya, he would move mountains. This year's mountain was a magnificent, custom-built playhouse for their backyard. It wasn't just wood and nails, it was a castle, a kingdom for his little queen, complete with a slide and a swing set. The delivery truck was scheduled to arrive that afternoon, a secret operation Marcus had guarded like a super spy. After breakfast, they built a fort out of couch cushions, read her favorite book for the 10th time, and had a dance party in the living room. It was a perfect, simple, happy day. A text came in just after 2 o'clock. "Delivery is on its way. ETA 20 minutes. Marcus's heart leaped. It was time. "Hey, Peanut," he said, his voice brimming with excitement. "How would you feel about an early birthday surprise?" Maya's eyes went wide. "A surprise? Now?" "A really, really big one," he confirmed. "But there's a rule. You have to be blindfolded. No peeking, or the magic disappears." She squealed with delight. She trusted him completely. He was her dad, her hero. Why would she ever feel anything but safe? He grabbed a soft scarf, knelt in front of her, and gently wrapped it around her eyes. "Ready for the best surprise ever," he whispered. "Ready," she chirped. But across the street, a very different story was taking shape. From her window, a neighbor was watching. Let's call her Brenda. She was a woman who liked order and predictability. In her world, hidden dangers were everywhere, and it was her duty to be vigilant. Marcus, the quiet black man who lived alone with his daughter, didn't quite fit into her predictable world. He kept to himself, polite but not chatty. In Brenda's mind, this wasn't privacy, it was secrecy. Fueled by a steady diet of sensationalized news, her suspicion had already flagged him as an unknown quantity. So when she saw Marcus kneeling in front of his daughter on the lawn, she wasn't seeing a father playing a game. Her view was partially blocked by a tree. She saw him wrap something around the little girl's head. A blindfold. The girl giggled, but to Brenda's ears, primed for alarm, it sounded like a nervous squeal. Then, Marcus took Maya's hand and led her toward the backyard. Maya, playing along, stumbled dramatically. "Oh no," she cried out playfully. "The monster is taking me to his lair." Brenda's blood ran cold. She didn't hear the playfulness. She heard monster and taking me. She saw a man leading a blindfolded child away from public view. The fragmented images, the misheard words, and her own biases clicked together, forming a single, terrifying, and utterly wrong conclusion. As Marcus led his daughter toward the greatest surprise of her life, Brenda, her heart pounding with certainty, reached for her phone. She was convinced she was saving a little girl. Section 2, The Escalation. 911, what is your emergency? Brenda's voice was a tremor of panic. Yes, I need to report. I think I'm witnessing a kidnapping. Right now. Okay, ma'am, calm down. What's your location? She rattled off her address, her eyes glued to Marcus's house. It's the house across from me. A man, he's always been, suspicious. He just blindfolded a little girl and he's dragging her to the back of the house. She was screaming. She called him a monster. Every word was a distortion, a piece of truth twisted into a new shape. The operator, trained to take every potential child abduction call seriously, began typing. Can you describe the man, ma'am? He's a black man, Brenda said, the words heavy with implication. Tall. He's wearing a dark shirt. The little girl is his daughter, I think, but you hear stories. He dragged her. She sounded terrified. Okay, ma'am. We're dispatching units immediately. Do not approach the house. In the backyard, Marcus and Maya were in a world of pure joy. He'd just pulled the tarp off the playhouse. It was even better than the pictures. Maya stood frozen for a second, her brain trying to process the sight. Then, a sound of pure awe escaped her. Daddy, is that, for me? Marcus knelt, his face beaming. Happy birthday, my princess. It's your very own castle. She launched herself into his arms. It was the perfect moment. It lasted for 12 seconds. The first sign of trouble was a flicker of movement at the side gate. Marcus looked up and saw them. 2 police officers, hands on their holsters, faces grim. Can I help you, officers? Marcus called out. The response was a barked command. Sir. Step away from the child. Put your hands in the air where I can see them. Now. The words didn't compute. Step away from his child. He instinctively pulled Maya closer, a protective gesture the officers immediately saw as defiance. I said, step away from her, the lead officer shouted, his hand now gripping his firearm. Terror shot through Marcus. Maya, sensing her father's fear and seeing the angry men, burst into tears. Her sobs were raw and terrified. This, too, was misinterpreted. To the officers, it was confirmation. My name is Marcus James, he stammered, slowly raising his hands. This is my daughter, Maya. This is my house. What is going on? We'll ask the questions, the officer snapped. 2 more police cars screeched to a halt out front, their lights painting the street in strobing blues and reds. Neighbors began to emerge from their homes. They saw the police, guns drawn. They saw a black man with his hands in the air. They saw a small child sobbing. And just like Brenda, they started connecting the dots in the worst possible way. Whispers rippled through the crowd. I knew it, a man muttered. Always so quiet. In minutes, the court of public opinion had been convened on the lawns of Oak Street, and a verdict was being reached. The police separated him from Maya. A female officer tried to lead his sobbing daughter away. It's okay, sweetie. We're here to help you. Daddy! Maya screamed, reaching for him. I want my daddy. It's okay, Peanut, Marcus called out, his voice cracking. He felt a profound helplessness. They were treating him like a monster in his own backyard, in front of his child, on what was supposed to be a happy day. An officer pushed him against the side of his house. We got a call, he said. A report of a possible abduction. A man forcing a blindfolded child into his backyard. A game. Marcus nearly shouted. We were playing a game. It's her birthday surprise. Look. He gestured desperately with his head toward the magnificent, forgotten playhouse. I bought that for her. The officer gave the playhouse a dismissive glance. It didn't fit the story he'd been given. We need to see some ID, he said flatly. And we need to verify that you are this child's legal guardian. For the next hour, Marcus was a prisoner in his own home. He sat on his patio while officers stood over him and searched his house. He could see Maya in the back of a squad car, and he felt the burning judgment of his neighbor's eyes. He explained everything, over and over, but it was like talking into a fog of suspicion. The presumption of guilt was suffocating. Section 3, The Revelation. Just as the third hour began, a new car pulled up. A detective got out. Her name was Detective Evans, and she moved with a calm authority that was completely different from the tense energy of the other officers. She didn't approach Marcus first. She spoke with the lead officer, her eyes scanning the scene. Something felt off. So, the reporting party saw him drag the girl, blindfolded, to the back of the house, Evans clarified. Yes, and the child was audibly terrified, according to the caller, the officer confirmed, gesturing toward Marcus. He claims it was a game. A birthday surprise. His tone made it clear he didn't buy it. Detective Evans's gaze fell on the playhouse. It was elaborate, brand new. An unlikely prop for a kidnapping. She walked over to the squad car where Maya was. Hi there, she said softly, crouching to the girl's eye level. My name is Maria. Can you tell me what that big, beautiful castle is over there? A tiny flicker of joy returned to Maya's eyes. Daddy got it for me, she said. It's my birthday surprise. We were gonna play in it. That was it. The piece that turned everything on its head. Detective Evans stood up and walked back toward the officers. Where's his wallet? She commanded. An officer handed it to her. She pulled out the driver's license, Marcus James. Address, this house. Then she found what she was looking for, tucked behind a credit card. A school photograph of Maya. On the back, in a child's clumsy handwriting, it read, To Daddy, I love you. From Maya. Evans held it out for the lead officer to see. His face began to show the first cracks of doubt. Let's see the inside of the house, Evans said. It wasn't a request. The moment they stepped inside, the story of a kidnapper's lair completely collapsed. The walls were a gallery of a father's love. Photos of Marcus and Maya at the zoo, at the beach. Her crayon drawings were taped everywhere. This was not a house of secrets. It was a home. The final, irrefutable proof was on the kitchen counter. An instruction manual. On the cover, in bold letters, assembly instructions for the Princess Dream Castle Playhouse. Tucked inside was the invoice. Paid in full. To Marcus James. Detective Evans walked back outside, holding the manual for all her officers to see. A deafening silence fell over the yard. The truth was no longer a matter of opinion or suspicion. It was a fact, printed in black and white. The shock rippled outward, first through the police, then through the neighbors. The whispers died. The certainty on their faces was replaced by disbelief and, for some, the creeping horror of shame. They hadn't witnessed the capture of a criminal. They had watched the humiliation of an innocent father. The whole neighborhood had been shocked, not because a kidnapper was in their midst, but because he wasn't. The shock was the sudden, jarring confrontation with their own prejudice. Detective Evans walked over to Marcus. "Mr. James," she began, her voice filled with regret. "There has been a very serious misunderstanding. You are free to go. I am so sorry for what you and your daughter have been through." Marcus slowly stood up as the cuffs were removed, rubbing his wrists. His eyes found Maya, who was now running toward him. He swept her up in his arms, burying his face in her hair. The police then turned their attention to the source of the call. Detective Evans and another officer walked across the street and knocked on Brenda's door. She opened it, expecting to be praised. Instead, she was met with the cold reality of her actions. "Ma'am," Detective Evans said, her voice flat. "The man you reported is the child's father. The screaming you heard was his daughter playing a game. You have subjected an innocent family to a horrific ordeal based on nothing more than an assumption." Brenda's face crumpled. She looked past the officers and saw Marcus holding his daughter, comforting her, next to the beautiful playhouse now illuminated by police lights. The sight broke through her bubble of fear. She saw the truth. And in that moment, the entire neighborhood was forced to see it, too. The shock wasn't a surprise, it was a reckoning. CTA. The flashing lights faded, but the echoes of that evening would linger on that street for a long time. The truth came out, but the scars from being judged and seen as a threat for no reason run deep. What Marcus experienced isn't just one man's story, it's a reflection of a painful reality that too many people face every single day. A parent's love should never be seen as a crime. If you believe truth and empathy can overcome prejudice, hit that like button. And subscribe for more stories that expose injustice and celebrate the strength of the human spirit. Conclusion. The last police car pulled away, leaving a heavy silence. One by one, the neighbors retreated into their homes. In the backyard, under the soft glow of the patio light, it was just Marcus and Maya again. "Are the police mad at you, Daddy?" she asked, her small voice trembling. Marcus's heart broke all over again. How do you explain to a 7-year-old that sometimes, people see monsters where there are only fathers? "No, baby," he said softly. "They aren't mad at me. They were just confused. They made a mistake. But it's all over now. They know I'm your daddy, and I love you more than anything. Nothing and nobody can ever change that." He looked at the playhouse. "And that castle is still your castle. Our castle." He had to be strong for her, but inside, he was shaken to his core. For 3 hours, he wasn't a person, he was a suspect, a stereotype. It was a trauma that wouldn't just vanish with the police cars. In the days that followed, a few apologetic gift baskets were left on his porch. Others crossed the street to avoid him. But for Marcus, the focus was singular, reclaiming the joy that had been stolen. He and Maya spent the next week turning the backyard into a wonderland. He pushed her on the new swing, her laughter finally returning to its full, unburdened brightness. As she soared back and forth, Marcus watched her, and a quiet resolve settled in his heart. They could stare and whisper and judge. They could try to define him by their fears. But they could not break the bond he had with his daughter. They could not touch the love that was the foundation of his world. In the end, the most shocking thing that happened on that street wasn't an accusation of kidnapping. It was the powerful, resilient, and undeniable truth of a black father's love, a love that proved stronger than any suspicion, and brighter than any darkness.